Manifestation is basically just saying a lie over and over again, hoping it'll come true. And that is the sticking point for some of us. So today I'm going to talk about it. Hey La, welcome to Coffee with Avila. I'm Aviana Lemaire. And on this channel we talk about neurodivergence and greater living, or greater living as a neurodivergent. But this is stuff that could probably help a lot of people, including, frankly, a lot of people who don't think they're ND, but they are. And so they're really going to relate, but they will have no idea why. But nonetheless, this is a safe space that I create. So here's what I want to talk about today. There is somewhat of a quote going around, and this quote sums up a conundrum I've been having recently. And I don't know to whom it's attributed. I've never seen it attributed to anyone in particular, but it basically says that when you're manifesting, when you're affirming to yourself, you're just telling yourself a lie until suddenly the lie becomes true. Now, for those of us, and I'm one of them, where something that we have been affirming in some way comes true, that second part, until it comes true, that's the important part, because you can get it to come true. You can have something that you've been focusing on actually become a part of your life. And I've had stuff I 100% knew was impossible the whole time I was affirming or thinking or anything that I was doing, any style of affirmation. I knew it wasn't going to happen. I knew it was impossible. It still happened. So I definitely believe in it. At the same time, my mind is still an autistic mind. It works in a certain way. And all I can think about when I'm trying to get something to come to me, there's still some things that I might or might not believe are impossible. I'm working on that. So I don't necessarily, when I say I do believe they're impossible, but then there are moments when I still think that way. So I'm gonna see if I can kind of address why it's weird for me with an autistic brain, because it does work. It works to pick an affirmation and keep going, and I've seen it work in my life from little things to massive life-changing things. But the entire time, this quote, or this concept of a quote, kind of sums up what the problem is. The first half of it, telling yourself a lie over and over again, it feels like what I'm doing is a complete waste of my time, and then I doubt myself because my brain, my autistic brain, is here to process logic and reason and a self-proof. So whatever it is that I've already experienced, being basically my current experience when I'm trying to bring something into my life, is that I'm not experiencing that thing, or I'm not experiencing enough. So my current experience is the self-proof. So the whole time that I'm affirming, I quite literally am going against the very nature of my brain so far as I know it. Because the studies that are out there, let's face it, traditionally people think that the typical brain is the one that's considered normal. It's all supposed to be about how that brain works. And then as neurodivergent, we do diverge from that. And so I don't 100% know how the neurodivergent brain works as far as retraining and building pathways. I'm kind of living in a world of faith where I'm believing that it works that way physiologically for us, because you can actually, physical neural pathways are forming, and I don't have a reason to believe that it's not working that way. But when you get to the mental aspect, that's about how you think, where we can feel this thing that we're saying it isn't right. We know it's not right. And every aspect of our brains as autists is saying this is not right. Past indicator is the greatest past behavior is the best indicator of future behavior, right? For that thing, you're just thinking, this is a self-proof. I don't have this thing. It isn't the truth. I don't know the person I'm imagining that I want to meet as a contact, as a friend, as a lover, as whatever it is. So you're just kind of flying in the face of pure logic and sense and the self-proof you have known to date. Trying to convince yourself that something magical is going to happen in the air and it's going to change, and all of a sudden you will know this person, or you'll get this thing, whatever it is that you're going for, boom, like magic, it's going to come. Excuse me. That's kind of a weird term for me. I know that when other people say like magic, I'm grabbing my coffee, my throat's already dry. It's one of those days where I started to record and my throat got dry. So I'm blazing through it anyway because that's ridiculous and I'm not having it. So sip. Just my usual coffee with my cayenne pepper in it. Really hoping the cayenne pepper does me some favors today. But it kind of flies against everything that we are, right? Because it doesn't make sense to say blah 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 blah, this magical thing has changed, and that term is weird for me because I don't see words the way other people do. So for me, magic doesn't automatically equate to an impossible thing or a non-existent thing or something that is not sensical to believe in. To me, it's just an entirely different thing. A blade of grass growing contains an incredible, remarkable, unbelievable element. That's like elephant with a V. It's going to be a funny day today. A blade of grass growing, to me, contains a remarkable, unbelievable, unfathomable element of magic that I can't even begin to create myself. Well, I don't want to. I'm a female. I could make that magic myself, but I don't want to. I can't create grass, is what I'm trying to say. I see incredible magic in that. I see magic in the voice of a singer or brings you to tears, listening to a song you've heard a million times before, but for some reason this time and this person is really evoking something indescribable, something ineffable, something amazing. To me, magic is a self-proof, and it's something very real. I am coming from that Christian mystic perspective, so it's a bit different for me, but I just process words differently than other people. But I know that generally when people say that, oh, like magic, it's going to pop up, what they mean is that is ridiculous, it doesn't make sense to believe. So part of my experience is, as I just explained that, part of my experience is that sometimes I can believe in the magic of a growing blade of grass, and I'm so accustomed to grass growing everywhere that I don't think of it as being insane to believe in. But in all reality, that spark of life is beyond my capacity to fathom what could come. And so when I think about that, and the fact that I wouldn't know how to create something like a blade of grass out of nowhere, but I do know how to believe that grass is going to grow. And because I know about grass and I know about dandelions and trees, when I see another plant somewhere else in the world that I never would have seen because I don't live there, but someone presents it and I have information, I believe in that plant now. It just brought something new into my stratosphere, and that's kind of what's happening when I'm in a really open place with manifestation. I'm thinking, okay, maybe I don't believe in, like, maybe the thing that I'm looking for is something that I don't see right now, that's not around me like crazy, and I don't know about it yet. But if I can fathom it, it must be something that I'm able to make real. And then I can have the thing that I want, and it'll just fall into that category of that type of grass or that type of plant from across the world where I didn't know about it until someone showed it to me. And so I can believe in a kind of magic that I haven't seen before because I've already lived a life where I believe in a local flower's magic, which makes it easier for me to believe in a foreign flower's magic when it's presented to me out of nowhere. And then I also have this experience where, let's say, in my life, I've had experiences with people that did not feel good. And so certain types of love, acceptance, understanding, I have truly believed in my life I could not have, and that they would be completely impossible for me to experience them. When I am filled with the proof of the magic of grass or a flower, I can believe in more flowers. The problem is that if I'm filled with the proof of the sort of soul-sucking, horrendous magic of a bunch of people who hate your guts or just don't like you, or they look at you funny, or whatever it is, wherever it is on their spectrum, they're just treating you badly. It's not fitting, it's not meshing. And even if in the past I've had experiences where you've been cordial or you've been kind, but you just don't click, it's not, oh no, I think, oh no, I don't know why no, but it's not, oh yeah, I'm closing my eyes today with a smile on my face to go to sleep because I think I just met my new bestie. It's just, oh, okay, I just met another person, and even though we got along, we still somehow didn't get along, so I'm just gonna go to sleep with more self-proof in the history of things that I can't have that close connection with people. So I've had that experience all of my life, proof everywhere that I can't have a certain amount of love or a certain amount of relating between individuals. And then you see it around with other people, so that proves that it can happen to some degree. That's deep, because you don't want to assume about other people, but I also excuse me, I also excel at processing things for what they are. So in my personal case, some of us will know this, there's an edge to it where it's not assumption, but it's actually just picking up on something you're not supposed to be able to pick up on. I'm just picking up on it in another way. And I have seen that there are people who have tight connections that truly love each other, couples that are clearly made for each other, and they're friends and they have that love, and they're besties. They have besties and they're friends and they have that love, and they accept each other and they know each other and all this stuff. And you can see that. You can see varying levels of it that don't even have to be that like picture perfect heart perfection where it's exactly what I might want or exactly what anyone might want. But sometimes they're just relating and there's love and it's clear. So you know it can happen. But then if you're somebody like me, like I was, where it never happened for you, somewhere inside your heart and your mind have converged on the belief, because they've both seen it, you've felt it and you've thought it. They've converged on this belief that you can't have it yourself. And when everyone else has it, but you can't have it, it hurts like crazy and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't compute. But it also teaches you that there's this weird interspace between possibility, like I know flowers and now I believe in other flowers, and impossibility, like I can't think of an example, but something you really think is completely impossible, something that seems astronomical, that you will just wake up tomorrow and there will be a bag by your bed with $1 million in it and you never have another financial issue in life. Most of us are not expecting that. We think it's probably impossible, when the truth is, I can not imagine how this would happen outside of a blockbuster movie, but who knows? All you really need is a cat burglar in reverse who happens to have a lot of cash and leave something there. I don't know. Who's to say? But there's an interspace when you've been through stuff like the relationship thing that I described, where you see other people can have something, but you haven't been able to have it. And it could be a relationship, it could be a home, it could be a car, it could be a vacation, it could be anything. So when you haven't been able to have it, there's an extra kind of pain, because it seems like life is proving that it's impossible, but it's only impossible for you. So I've had these experiences, and I've had these experiences with a whole lot of things, and some of them have switched all the way around. Like, I can't believe I can sit here right now today after the life I've had and say that I have a very best friend. And it's ridiculous. It's an amazing story, which I'm not going to tell right now, but I didn't have a bestie until I was, what, was I 40 yet, or in my late 30s? I think I was at the very end of my late 30s. And it took a really long time. That was almost 4 decades out of the womb, learning everyone else can have a bestie and relate and have somebody who knows and gets it and knows what you're dealing with and can understand what you're feeling and can be there for you. But I can't have it. So it was nearly 4 decades of just learning it's specifically impossible for me. And I went through the rigors of affirmations about that, and I went through it for a long time. It took me many years because I had been through so much, and frankly, I didn't believe that I could manifest something that big. And I firmly believed, after all that time, my brain had been firmly trained that if it could be manifested, I specifically couldn't do it. There were a lot of things that were kind of in my way, and I didn't know how to reach like that. And frankly, I was just dealing with a lot. So, I know it sounds kind of horrifying that it took years, but it did take me years. And now that I have this incredible best friend, I'm so happy about it. I'm no longer living in a place where I'm hurting because I don't have it. It's horrible that it took that long, but there were a lot of reasons why. And they were really solid reasons. But I still got it. And I remember that at a certain point, I had specifically started to focus on what I needed in a friend. And I had an experience where I met someone and it wasn't the right person. I met someone, it wasn't the right person. And I even had an experience where I met someone and I thought, oh, this might be the right person. But it still wasn't that thing. We didn't click like that. And it's almost like versions of what my heart knew it needed were being directed toward me until I actually found the right one. And because I'm a Christian mystic, and I do believe that there is good and there's bad, that there's God, there's the devil, that there's positive, that there's negative, and that there's something that wants to give you what you need and something that wants to give you what you don't need. I have had these thoughts that some of that stuff was sent in my direction to throw me off the trail. I have a specific life, and not everyone is going to deal with this, but I have often had a lot of sort of distractions before I hit the real thing. And I wonder how many of us, when we're manifesting, have run into a bumper crop of distractions where it's like, oh, this is close, or it's like, oh, that's not it, but it's in the valley. Oh, that's closer, but it's still not it. And then it's like, oh, this is really close, and then you think that's it, but you realize it's not it, and then you're like, okay, I lost my manifestation. Maybe you didn't lose your manifestation. Maybe you just ran into another counterfeit or a close version or a try, something that was on the way there while you stair-step your way to the next floor, but you got to a certain step and there was a landing and you couldn't see past the landing. So you thought, okay, I'm never going to reach that next floor, but maybe it was just a few more steps away. Maybe it still is a few more steps away. And so I've seen that, I listed that the bestie thing because I had been trained for decades that it was impossible for me to be truly loved for who I am and not judged and to not go through bad things. And so having this experience has blown my mind. And I've had other experiences like this. And the whole time, very often, I was going through these different steps of believing it was impossible or it was impossible for me, and I still kept at it because I'm just going on this neurological science that there are all these different things, and I don't want to misstate them, but they're out there. You see them, you run into them in the manifestation community where they're talking about it's a reticular something, I can't remember the name. And this is going to sound weird, but I play The Sims 3 and they have weird, funny things on the screen, on the loading screen while the game is loading, and I swear one of those screens says something about activating reticular spline. And I'm like, reticular spline? Right now the only term in my head is that, but there's a real thing, some kind of center in your brain that helps train you to see more of what you want, to pick up on something you might not have seen before. I believe that these are, like I said about my personality, I have to work in certain ways and my mind does certain things. So my brain, I believe God programmed it to be able to interface properly with my mind, or my spirit person can interact with this world through a brain that does what it needs to do. And I think that something like that in your brain, where the more you focus on something, the more you see it in the atmosphere, the more you see things like it. I think that is what is happening when your spirit person is focusing on something. Your mind wants something, you want to bring it into your life. And so you focus on it with who you are, the essence of your being, and your brain as an interface is paying attention to how you as the essence of yourself is directing it. And that part of your brain is one of many parts with many purposes, and that part's purpose is to help you find what your spirit is thinking about. So it goes, your spirit creates it, your brain processes it, and then tries to help you interface with it in this physical reality by showing you more of that thing. It makes perfect sense to me. And when it comes down to thinking about something enough and forming new neural pathways and just the learning process, I think it's really basically the exact same thing. I think I'm kind of running into a wall where I'm slightly extremely focused, but I also am just about to lose my grasp on words to explain what I'm thinking. Let me take a sip. There is, I think, no reason to believe, so far as I've seen, that as autists and autistic ADHDers, and me, I'm an ADHDer, and both, there's no reason to believe that my brain doesn't learn in the way that other people's do, by repetition, and that I can't manifest throughout repetition. It's just that it is really, my brain really excels at believing something that's already a self-proof. So when I'm repeating something that goes against what's a proof, it's a greater challenge for me. But that does not even kind of mean that it's impossible. It just means that there are some people who do not excel at what we excel at as autists, and they might be better at it. Like, the neurotypical brain is very good at learning something. Let's say it's a societal interaction. One of the big differences with us, very often noticed as children, is that the children who are allistic can be presented with a situation, a social situation or a social requirement, and we are presented with a social situation or social requirement, the same thing, but our reaction to it is to question it and need to understand why, or else if we don't understand why, we can't accept it. If it doesn't make sense, we can't accept it. Whereas the allistic children seem to have a better time, especially neurotypical ones, just hearing that this is the norm and being like, oh, okay, I accept it because if it works, it works. And some people are like, if it works, it works. That's fine, it works for them. And some people, as the autists, were like, it works, but why? How does it work? Is it working for a good reason? Can I change it? Can I tweak it? Can I engineer this into a better thing? Isn't there another way? Is there a better way? Is there a way that feels more natural to me? And so there's more of a challenge, right? So I think that a lot of the time, perhaps the traditional things about repeating an affirmation to train your brain and to make that thing materialize in the real world or the 3D world, I think there are some people who might excel at that. Excuse me, I'm trying not to hiccup. I think there are some people who might excel at that, but at the same time, the fact that we don't excel at it doesn't mean that we can't do it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like it is with some of the social stuff, because sometimes doing social things the way NTs do social things can really be upsetting for us. But this doesn't have all those same factors where there might be other people and other energies and people requiring things of us and extra stuff put upon us that can drain our energy. The affirmation is something you're doing inside of your own mind. And so you can do it according to your own rules. When you feel like it, when you think about it, you might be manifesting something and absolutely no one even knows you're doing it, so they can't really put their 2 cents in or add their energy or subtract any energy by tiring you out because they're not a party to it. So it's similar to the social thing because we question it more, and so we don't appear to excel at it in the same way because we're just thinking about it completely differently, right? Maybe it's not a desirable method. Maybe it doesn't feel that great because when I'm saying something to myself to convince my mind that it's true, but I know it's not true, it does feel like I'm just kind of being full of it. It doesn't feel great all the time. But at the same time, I know over time, when I have done this thing, I have trained myself and I've changed a lot of my thoughts because I chose to repeat something that was a better thing. One of the things that I worked on, and I didn't do it for this reason because I wasn't really a part of the whole online manifestation community or anything, but one of the things that I worked on, because it's just a part of my life and what I needed to do to heal, was what they call self-image. I would have a lot of bad thoughts, and I would blame myself for everything. And because of the way I grew up, I knew it's not like I think I'm inside of somebody's mind controlling them for them, but there were a lot of situations where, because of my mind, frankly, I was the rare mind. I was the autistic, ADHD, stealth dyslexic child, and I was a genius and didn't know. And I would find myself in situations where, because I excel at human interactions, the human experience, I get why people do things, and I come from a spiritual perspective, so I often understand it in a way that they don't. Because of all of that on me, that was a part of me, I held a lot of weight for being in bad situations and knowing I know how to manipulate this situation so it doesn't get worse. I know how to manipulate that person's behavior so it doesn't get worse. And since that was something that was on me, if something went wrong, I blamed myself. Whenever anything went wrong, I blamed myself. I would do the neurodivergent thing where I would hash things out over and over and over nonstop in my mind because if something had gone wrong. I just wanted to learn why it went wrong. It wasn't obsessing in an unhealthy way. My take on it is we excel at processing information. Our brains engineer life. And part of engineering something is sometimes running into something that's already built and reverse engineering it by first seeing what it is, analyzing what it is, what it does, the situation, like the situation that had gone wrong. I would see what it was and what it did. I'd see the effect that it had. Then I would start to wonder how it did it, why it did that. I'd start to piece it apart, pull it apart and look at all the pieces. This gear seemed to turn in that way and crush that one, and then the other one started to turn. I'm trying to learn the situation spot by spot by spot by spot. For me, this is not a disease. Excuse me, it's not an obsession. It's an extremely adept and acute, specific, sometimes overwhelming, and highly rare way of analyzing something until I understand everything I can possibly understand about the situation. And I believe that part of the reason why that's kind of making another video, I might have to stop in a minute, I seem to be very congested, but I believe that that's the reason why we as neurodivergents go on and on and on about something like social situations and the thing that's supposed to be so well known with ADHD, which is rejection sensitive dysphoria. I don't believe, in my case 100%, I have not just had rejection sensitive dysphoria. And in my experience, what happened was, I honestly remember my entire life, and I remember before I was so sensitive to these things because I had not yet been taught to be sensitive. I didn't know how it felt to be repeatedly rejected. And I remember different moments in my life where different levels of rejection, questioning, peeling apart what I was doing and why, they hit me, and I built that up. So a lot of my stuff, when it has come down to the concept of manifesting a new thing, that has to do with believing I deserve that thing or that I can have that thing, is convincing myself that it's not only impossible for me. And in order to do that, I had to work on my self-image, because I was convinced from all those things in my life that had gone wrong, that I didn't know enough, that I wasn't doing enough, that somehow I always mess up. You know, that thought that's like, I somehow always mess up everything. How did I do it? I could have done this. You look at it, and in hindsight, after you've pieced apart the situation completely and you're looking at all of its pieces and parts and you get how they work, you start trying to reverse engineer the situation, but with these new fixes that take away the problem. So when I'm starting to put the pieces back together so that I have the situation but without the problem, I would then blame myself, because in hindsight I could see clearly what went wrong. And in reality, I could only see it that way because of hindsight. If I could have seen it with foresight, it wouldn't have happened. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it really just doesn't come naturally to be completely forgiving of yourself when you're living with the hurt, the confusion of something that went wrong. And you know that if you had known, you could have fixed it. But the truth is, sometimes you just didn't know. So how could you possibly have done anything about it? And the truth is, we're often eating ourselves alive because we know that we would have fixed it if we could have, which further emphasizes the fact that in the situation we clearly couldn't. It's really not our fault. But I had to do a lot of fixing because of a lot of things, because of being mistreated, because of my gifts being seen as being horrible things. I had a lot of weight on me that I maintained even when other people weren't putting it on. And so I spent a lot of time telling myself really wonderful things about myself in every category. I told myself I was beautiful until I believed it. And there's a certain psychology to a female child of an abusive or absentee male figure just kind of not believing that they're beautiful or they deserve love and stuff like that. And I was dealing with that too. So I had a whole lot of things teaching me that I couldn't do this. But I kept saying the opposite. Every time I had a bad thought, I would say the opposite of it. So when I thought, no one can love you, for some reason, this is just all I do. I can't be loved. I just clearly don't deserve love. I'd be like, I'm perfect. I'm absolutely wonderful. I would say these things out loud. Did I believe it? No. I was going with the science. I was repeating it. I was going to try this thing and I was going to work it out, and if it has proved itself before, I believed it could prove itself again in my life. So I went with the scientific approach. Can I recreate the results? When I thought I'm worthless, clearly I'm worthless, life keeps showing me I don't deserve any better, I would say I am, and this is like, there's a biblical thing to this because some people won't like it, but it is actually in Christianity. It's quite outright said in the Bible. I would be like, I'm not worthless. I'm a god. I'm a goddess. I'm perfect. I'm perfect. I do things beautifully. Whatever just happened, I'm meant to do this. I'm fabulous. I look lovely. I look so perfect all the time. I would do that thing that some people say to do. Look in the mirror, and if you're having a thought, I hate the way fill in here looks, I would say out loud, I love how incredible fill in here looks today. I would literally say the opposite of the bad thought, whatever it was, no matter how grandiose it was. If I was convinced that I didn't deserve love, I'd be like, I'm the most lovable person in the entire planet. And you know what happened? It felt horrible. It felt ridiculous. I hated it, but I was going with it because I was performing a scientific test. Can I recreate the results myself? And guess what? I did it, and it worked. I recreated the results. And for me, because the programming in my life had been so intense and I'd been told so many horrible things and I'd been through so many horrible things, I didn't come out of it. You know, people are like, I don't want to be over the top. You don't want to be making yourself ill. You don't want to trigger narcissistic traits. And some of us have been through unhealthy situations with people who have narcissistic traits. The last thing we want to do is embody that. It didn't do that for me. Because what I was doing was, I was trying to reach center, but I had these blocks along my way from the stuff that I'd been through before I could reach center, and they were just in the way, little hurdles. So I'd be trying to jump hurdles, but I couldn't jump the hurdles, so I stayed all the way off to the wrong side, having been told all these horrible things and going through this bad stuff and thinking, nope, horrible me, clearly don't deserve it, blah blah blah. The only way I could get myself near center, I couldn't jump the hurdles. I just couldn't. I wasn't equipped. They were too big. Whatever the case was, I couldn't get over them. So I had to try a new method. If I wasn't able to jump them, you know, if you can't walk the ground, maybe you need to get above the hurdle. So what I did was I kind of swung like a pendulum across it. So every time that pendulum that should have been in the center of I am love, I am worthy, I'm me, I am complex, I have upsides and downsides, right? Every time that swung hard into the side that said, I deserve nothing, I always lose, blah, 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 I would swing myself. Since that momentum was going, I'd use that momentum to swing my thoughts. I'm perfect. I am love. I'm lovely. I'm beautiful. I'm a goddess. I'm wonderful. felt horrible every single time. Not going to say it felt good. It felt horrible for the longest of times. And it felt horrible for a long time for me. I had to fight for a very long time before I even felt good saying the words, or before I came up with a series of words that worked for me, or thoughts that worked for me. And I did say these things out loud because my mind can grab onto a point and cling to it. And this might be another ADHD thing. My mind grabs onto a point and clings to it like crazy. So when I was clinging to the thoughts that were upsetting, that's what was on repeat. Multiple layers, horrible memories, blah, 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 blah inside of my mind. The only way to break through the noise, you know how people talk about 8D music for ADHD? It's a series, basically it's like a harmonious cacophony that's going on. And because this harmonious cacophony is going on, I've tried it, it kind of does something to get on top of everything else you're thinking, and it quiets the mind. So I needed to say my stuff out loud because my internal thoughts were so overwhelming that thinking another thought just got lost in the mix. I needed to hear the sound of my own voice personally to trigger myself to think something positive. So since I couldn't jump the hurdles with a normal thought, you know, I wasn't at center, and there were too many hurdles that I couldn't jump over to be like, no, it's not that bad. No, I feel better. No, it's okay. I'll feel better tomorrow. I couldn't do small steps. The pendulum had swung far into, I don't deserve love. So the only way I could do it was to take the momentum of an insanely strong pendulum in the wrong direction and throw it really hard in the right direction. I'm a goddess. I'm perfect. Everybody loves me in the most beautiful, healthy, Christ-like ways. And I just threw it over there. What ends up happening when a pendulum is no longer swinging like crazy, we've all seen it with something like a clock. When they ding dong like that, there's always something, a necklace that you swing in the air. Eventually, that momentum slows down. If there's no more energy giving it force so it flies like crazy too, I hate myself, and then it's swinging crazily too. Oh, I love myself, I'm the most perfect thing. Eventually it slows down and it comes back to center. What ended up happening with me, because I had so many horrible things in my mind, was that I had to say all the really good things so that I was combating the bad things with something that was equal and opposite in strength. And so when my mind would calm down, I would be getting closer and closer and closer to a happy, constant medium at my center. That's how it worked for me. It did not make me go overboard. It didn't make me stop being a loving person. I am who I am. I make the choices I make. I believe what I believe. I wasn't going to, excuse me, this term they say, love myself too much. I'm going to tell you something. Anybody who loves themselves too much, that thing where they're thinking only about themselves, nobody else matters, I'm going to tell you right now, bubble burst. I hate to pop your balloon, but I need to. The balloon that dances around believing that that is too much love, that's not love at all. They don't love themselves too much. What's going on is that they just have a form of issue going on. It's not okay. They're not healthy. And quite frankly, go study it. If narcissists were truly happy, they wouldn't be acting in the ways that some narcissists act when they're being their worst self. And that happiness, there's something about, I'm kind of sitting over here twirling a candle because I need to stim, but love is directly related to a sense of inner peace and inner happiness. And I'm going to make, I guess, my 13th video inside of this one talking about this, but a lot of stuff is on my mind right now. And when people say love yourself too much, it isn't a thing. That's the earthly bastardization of the word love that makes it mean nothing. So some people don't want to use the word because they think it just means nothing anymore, which is kind of nice. They consider it so holy that they don't want to continue the bastardization of everything that it's supposed to mean. And so they refuse to. And that's kind of neat. That's one of the most romantic, beautiful things, when you just see that something is wrong and you refuse to participate in it. You refuse to participate in it at all because you don't know how to participate without adding to the negativity. It's kind of cool. I can respect that. But the thing they call love yourself too much, excuse me, When people are saying somebody loves themselves too much, just for the record, that's not love. It doesn't have anything to do with love. It's not true love. It might be a fake sort of love. They might be having some kind of twisted limerence with themselves, but generally it doesn't even have to do with that. Generally it has to do with feeling so incredibly insecure that they just lash out like crazy. They're kind of manifesting in the wrong way, frankly. They're kind of telling themselves a lie when they think, I'm not perfect. They're kind of telling themselves, I am perfect. But instead of just trying to make themselves believe it, so it becomes closer to the truth, they're now trying to force the entire world not to believe it. They don't believe that anyone else will believe it. So they're now trying to force the entire world to act like it and not show them up. That is not love, and it's not health. And it's not a good way to manifest. You'll notice it usually backfires because there's a whole name for what they're dealing with. It doesn't have a positive connotation, and people generally notice it only because they've been through the worst possible iteration of it and it was so glaringly obvious that they'd learn. But anyway, pretty sure I went slightly off the rails on that. But my main point that I started with, and I hope I kind of made it somewhere in here, is that I've been thinking since I started thinking about manifestation as a neurodivergent that I need to make a video on this subject because I've been going through the ringer trying to figure out how it works for me. And my main point, if anyone is still here to hear it, is that you might not be able to follow the method. Like some people say, oh, this is what works. This is the one that works. This is the best one. This is the simplest one. It's never that simple because everyone is different. And sometimes you just need a different thing to enliven you and make you want to do it, or to work with your brain if your brain just doesn't need to be enlivened by it, but needs to just be able to focus on something. Maybe you just want to focus on something and do that until it works, like the scientific method with me. I'm going to try this and I'm going to keep doing it, and it doesn't matter how much I don't believe that I'm beautiful today, and it doesn't matter how much I don't believe that I'm lovable today. I'm going to keep saying it. Because there's supposed to be proof that if I keep saying it, I'll believe it. So I kept saying it to test and see if it was true, and it was true, and that worked for me. And I did a million different methods, and I tried to write stuff down, and I tried, you write something down, you look at it a lot, or there are things where I've written something down to get it out of me, and I've burnt it because it was private, very safely. And they're just saying. Just saying, in case anybody has any ideas, it can be done, but do it safely. And if you can't do it safely, I would advise, for entertainment purposes, that you don't do it at all. And I don't feel bad about telling somebody not to do something that's clearly not safe. Anyway, the method isn't what got me. And it wasn't that I found a specific thing that worked with my brain all of the time. It's not like having an internal thought worked for me all the time. I just explained why I had to say things out loud sometimes. And honestly, sometimes saying things out loud didn't work. Sometimes you're around people and you do not want them to hear you, and you don't want them to hear your affirmations because it's private. Or maybe they're just not trustworthy people in that particular capacity in your life. And for me, also, because I'm a Christian mystic, spiritually, I don't always want to put something out into the atmosphere because I understand myself and my life and the atmosphere and all of the other things in it well enough to know that sometimes I need to keep a thought to myself. So as another interesting point, for some of us who are neurodivergent and we do not speak, we do not want to speak, we cannot speak with words, the power of your mind is what formulates those words. You might be at somewhat of an advantage if you do not have that moment where you take your thought and you make it public, you throw it into the atmosphere. Because if you're someone who is busy processing the spiritual things of life, once it's out of your mouth and it can go into the spiritual realm, you're no longer the only person who has access to it. And I kind of want to make a different video, but we're going to end up with an hour-long video if I do this. Because for some of us, and especially people who believe the spiritual things in Christianity, there is a spiritual realm, and there are different things that function in it. And it's not always a good thing to put things out there. And it has changed my personal experience as a Christian mystic manifesting, and added some weird I would say complications, that it has taken me until just now in my life to finally be able to reconcile and to understand. And it doesn't mean that I can't manifest, but it definitely makes it a heck ton more specific and complex for me because of the way in which I choose to live my life. And it has something to do with the consciousness of a life's purpose. But that's another video, and hopefully I will make that a note and talk about it, because I really have a lot on that subject, and I know it's a very specific video, but now is the time to do it, right? We're living in that time. It's on my mind. We'll see if I get there. Yeah, but to firmly close that point, if you don't speak your manifestations for whatever the reason, they might be stronger because you're dealing with that thought, the thought in your mind. Your brain is processing the thought, but it's your mind that's having it, and your mind is that part of that spirit you, the spirit person. And that is already in the spiritual atmosphere. But if you're the only one who has that thought because you don't put words to it, you don't put words to your affirmation, or you don't write it down, you don't put it outside of yourself, you now have the power to sort of control the outcome differently, because no one and nothing else can get in between you and that. It's going to be just you and God, your creator. And no one and nothing else needs to know. And that could be a very powerful spot. I don't know if I've said everything I need to say on the subject, but if I haven't, I think I'll have to make another video, because I feel like I just finished and my mind is running out of words, and I can clearly see that it's been 46 minutes and 42 seconds of talking. So here's my outro. Have any thoughts or questions? Share them in the comments. Notice any gaps in the autistic, ADHD, or ADHD community conversation? Want a spiritually, mystically inclusive indie voice on the subject? And again, I excel at the human interaction stuff. I'm the autist that's not supposed to exist. I get why people are doing things, NTs, whatever. It's not shocking to me. I know all this stuff. It's part of my life interest. So just looking for an extra opinion or viewpoint. Share your suggestions in the comments. If I can address them, I might make them into a video. Remember to like, share, subscribe, ring the notification bell for all of my newest updates, and be blessed. And on that note, indeedy, do be blessed. That's about it. Bye now.